Ladies, gentlemen, Speakerhead Squad, what's going on? It's your boy Speakerhead, and welcome back to another video. Recently, I made a video showcasing the mega farm I built, and from the feedback I got, it seems like a lot of you are vibing with this sort of content, which is really awesome to see. But since I planned on remaking a majority of my bases anyways, I decided to get started on my next mega base right away, and the next one on my list was my pal breeding base. So since I'm pretty much done putting in everything that I want to on this base, I wanted to do a quick showcase for you all and show you everything that I built. But before we go over this mega base, just a friendly reminder that if you enjoy any of the music you hear during this video or just want to support the channel in general, it's all part of my DMCA free music label, Speakerhead Studios. This is a music label I created and run where all the songs in it are completely DMCA free, so go ahead and use any of these tracks for your content creating needs. We currently have over 70 songs available with more added frequently, so if you're interested in checking that out, all the links will be in the description below. Something else I want to mention before we actually go over this base is while I personally built this specifically for pal breeding, you can easily use this base design for an all-in-one base if you wanted to. I understand how I play Palworld might not be the same as how others play, especially if you're only using 15 pals at a base rather than 50, but these videos are generally meant to give players ideas on how they could structure and design their bases rather than something they copy 100%. Finally, I will mention that unlike my other mega base, I did stream building a majority of this base on my channel since some people were interested in seeing how these structures are built. So if you're interested in watching some of the process of building this base, then I'll have those streams linked in the description as well. But with all that out of the way, let's actually start going through this mega breeding base. Now before we actually go over each floor, I do want to go over the dimensions of this base and where it's located, since in the last base video I completely forgot to mention these things. Starting with dimensions, this structure is going to have a 13 by 13 base with the corners cut off along with being 18 walls high. I'll also mention that these are the same length and width dimensions as my mega farm, which I incorrectly stated as 11 by 11 in that video. Finally, each floor is going to be 3 walls high since I personally like having that extra horizontal space for decorating and general building purposes. As for where this base is located, I built this structure in a base plot on the northwest side of Sakurajima Island. I'll also put on screen the exact coordinates of where I built my pal box just in case anyone else would like to build their base in the same location. So now that we've gone over some of the basics of this base and where it's located, let's actually start going over the interior and how I have everything set up. Alright, so here we are at the bottom floor of my base, and just like my other video, I'm going to be going over each floor first, and at the very end I'll be going over all the pals that I use at this base. But to start things off, we're going to start with this farming corner right here, and then we're going to just kind of work in a circle and then finally work our way up. So right here, obviously we have all of our crops. I wanted to make it so I could actually make cakes at this base so I didn't have to take supplies from the mega farm. But we got a total of 9 wheat crops here and 8 berry crops just to make sure we got plenty of those supplies for making cakes. And then I just kind of have them all lined up here and I lock them all together just to make sure it's all nice and neat. But then moving on to the staircase, as you guys might know, I really like to store a lot of things underneath staircases, and on this base it is absolutely no different. So underneath here we have all of our general upgrade supplies, so anything we can need to actually upgrade our pal's work speed is going to be underneath here. And I always like to hide a majority of this stuff underneath staircases because a lot of this just kind of looks ugly, like where are you going to put a witch cauldron and stuff like that. And then along with all these upgrade structures, we have a lot of accumulators down here since I like storing these underneath staircases as well. So up here we have a total of 25 accumulators, and it is the same down below, so we got a total of 50 of them at this base. And I have heard some different things from different people, some people saying that only one does anything and you don't really need the rest, while having a bunch will make the battery supply last longer. I personally don't really know much about that, to be completely honest with you all, but all I can say is that I never run out of power with this many, so I'm gonna keep building this many because it works for me. But moving out of the staircase now and onto this other corner, I will explain what this is in just a little bit here because we have one on this side and one on the other, and it's actually pretty fun, but I do want to get to that later. But right here we have our ovens to make our cakes, and honestly 3 is more than enough. I just kind of put 3 in just in case we ever needed them. So next to our large ovens here, we also have our large energy generators, and that's mainly to make sure we have plenty of power for these oil extractors. But these 4 large generators that I have along with the accumulators that I have is more than enough electricity to supply this entire base. So I already talked about it a little bit, but I do have 4 oil extractors here at this base as well. And the reason why I have this setup where these are pretty much in the center of this base is mainly because this is the flattest area I could get with this circle, so I pretty much had to put my pal box right where it is. But even though these oil extractors take up a large majority of this first floor, I really do like having all 4 of these at my base. And for those who are curious, I didn't do any modding to put these oil extractors in. If you actually line them up perfectly in a certain spot, you can actually get 2 on one plot. And then I also have some advanced chests right here just to make sure we got a spot to store all the soil we get. So now in this last corner here, we have our mills to make our wheat and flour. And then underneath this staircase, I have my bedroom, since I always like to have a bedroom on the bottom floor and the very top of any base. And to just kind of quickly go over things here, we have our little TV set up with the couch. We have the little footrest. And then I also put some lanterns right next to the TV just to make sure it looks all nice. We also have a nice glass window right here just to kind of look at the waterfalls. Usually I don't like having glass down here since the more powerful pals can easily destroy this kind of stuff, but I figured that I'd have this here just because once again it looks really nice to look at the waterfalls. But then on this wall here we have a piano with our vending machines. I think it looks pretty nice. I didn't really know what else to put here. And then underneath our staircase here we have our little water thing. It looks pretty nice with the lanterns. And then we also have a nice little Japanese style desk with some lanterns and some plants. And once again, for the same reason as the glass windows, I usually don't like having open windows on the first floor just for powerful enemies to hit us through. But once again, I decided to make an exception because come on, that looks lovely now. And then finally, I just have a chest here as well just to make sure that I got some room in case I want to store anything. Now the very last thing in this room is the actual bed spot, and I made sure to decorate this so it looks all nice and pretty, or as pretty as I can with metal walls. But then the actual bed area, we have the bed with the little nightstand and the little chest up front, along with having the character editor station here as well, because once again, I think it's just a nice little thing to have at any base just in case you ever want to change your character. And then we also have lights up there on both parts just to make sure at night that there's plenty of lighting here. So now that we've gone over everything on the first floor, let's actually move on to the second floor here. And this is where I'm going to have all of my bed stations along with my ranches. So as you can see by the number in the corner, we have 48 beds at this base, which I know we don't have 50, but at the same time, usually don't have 50 at this base. But we also do have 4 ranches all around just to make sure we got all supplies for cakes. Once again, got to make sure we got those supplies. I could just buy those supplies. I mean, I got plenty of money for it, but once again, I like having some sort of natural way of getting it so that way I'm not just spending money getting those resources. We also have some high quality hot springs in this corner, along with having a pal condenser and some pal pods as well in this corner. And then it's pretty much flip-flopped on the opposite side. So we got the pal condenser over there along with the high quality hot springs in that corner. And then finally, we do have a statue of power here, and in this crate is where I have all my pal souls. As you can see, we got a decent amount in here, but I also have all my pal souls split up on a few different bases as well, so this isn't all my pal souls. But other than that, we have the side rooms to go over, so we'll go over this one first. So for this room, I didn't really know what to put here. I just made it a little doctor's office because I thought that looked nice. It also gives me an excuse to build this in case I need medicine at this base. But we have the little medical station here. We have the little check-in desk over here. We have the little separation walls to keep things private in the doctor office. Behind these, we have these little shelves, which I think, I don't know, they just look like a doctor office aesthetic. Got some plants on the wall to kind of make that look nice. And we also have a little patient bed here. So what I did is I took a bunch of these ironwood side tables, lay them all down, and then finally I put a carpet down. Specifically, this antique long carpet is what I used, and I just placed that on top. So now if you want a little bed thing that isn't an actual bed, you have one right here. And finally, I just put a little chair here so the doctor can be like, "Oh, what's wrong with you though?" But then over here, we have our little medical station, so if pals need any medicine, they can grab it from here. I gotta put some in here still, but we got it all set up. Then we just have a little bookshelf and a couple of couches just for a little waiting area. But then moving on to the other staircase here. In this staircase, we have our pal disassembly machine, so that way if you need to disassemble any pals that you're breeding and you just don't need any of the excess ones, you can do that right here at this base. And I also have some chests set up here, so if you don't want to run around and find a place to store all that supplies, you can just store them in this room as well. But other than those staircases, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over on this floor. So now we're on to the actual pal breeding floors. So up here we have our dual staircase. We put some carpets here just to make that nice and a little bit more unique. And we also put some Demud statues at every single staircase from here on out because I like them. I like Demud. But on the actual floor, this is one of the pal breeding floors. So on each side we have 2 breeding stations. So 2 over here, and then we have 2 over here as well. We also have some of these lampposts to add some light at night, along with some lights in all those little top spots over here. So we got lights all over there. And then as you can see, we also have the large incubation stations right in front of me. We have 2 on this side and 2 in the other, so we got plenty of spots to hatch eggs. But then in the center room is actually going to be really nice for a lot of people, and this is going to be a giant storage room. So we have a lot of large refined chests in here. To be exact, we have 40 in this one room. And since each chest can hold 40 items, that means this entire room can hold 1,600 items in total. I know some people are probably thinking that's way too many chests, but when eggs take up 1 slot per chest, it's really nice to have all those extra slots. And then in the very center, we also have a pane of glass just to look down on lower floors because I thought that'd be fun. But then going out of this room, the only other thing I want to go over on this floor are these little rooms that I have underneath these staircases. So I didn't really know what to put underneath these staircases, but I did want something since I didn't want it to be open and empty, so I put these little study rooms in here. So all I did is put a few bookcases in here along with some crates with some lanterns on top, and then I put some little Japanese style desks in this room. And then finally we got some panes of glass so we can look at the rest of the room, plus we get some lighting from that light as well from here. And then underneath every single staircase, at least on this floor, it's going to be the exact same layout. And I know I didn't use these rooms for anything super important or anything, but I just like having some nice rooms to decorate because, you know, it's just fun to do on a game like this. So something else I actually forgot to go over on this floor is that if you go on this side, there's actually a staircase up here, and you have a lot more chests. Once again, 40 chests up here for storage. But with this storage room combined with the one below, that's a total of 3,200 slots for storing items. Once again, this is probably more storage space than anyone would ever need at a base, but you can feel free to build whatever you want in this room if you build this structure. But with this last room out of the way, that's everything that I wanted to go over on this floor, so we're going to start going up from here. So these next 2 floors are pretty much going to be the same as the first floor, but the only thing that's going to be different on each of them are these little side rooms. So on the side rooms for the second floor, I decided to change things up. We put some plants up here instead of the lanterns because I thought that looked nice, along with having an antique desk here instead of the Japanese style one, because once again, just to change it up a little bit. And finally, I put some carpet in these rooms because I thought it'd change up the aesthetic a little bit, plus they fit really well in here. That's going to be the little study rooms on the second floor here. Once again, all of these are going to be identical in all these corners, but I think it looks pretty nice. You guys can let me know down in the comments below what you think. But then moving on to the final floor, once again the same as the other 2, but the only thing that's going to be different are these side rooms. Now these ones are a bit more unique because I made these more of an industrial type room. So we got the 2 different types of lockers here, just kind of patterned back and forth. And then instead of the wooden crates, I decided to put these in here because I thought they'd look better. Now for the desk, I decided to put 4 different ones in each of these rooms. This one right here is just going to be the iron decorative desk, so this one doesn't really do anything. But in the other rooms, just to change things up, I decided to put in the different workbenches since I really like the aesthetic of them. So one room, for example, has a weapon workbench, one of them has a high quality workbench, and one of them has a sphere production bench. And then the very last thing to note in these rooms is I do have these shelves up here just to add a little bit more aesthetic to the room. And once again, these aren't the greatest for storage, but if you really needed that extra storage space, you can use all of these for storage. And to quickly show off these rooms with the other benches, we have the sphere production bench right here. On the other staircase here in this one, we have the weapons one. Once again, I just really like the look of that. I like all the weapons on it. And then finally in this last one, we just have the regular production bench. And once again, I just think that looks nice with the aesthetic and everything. With these little side rooms all covered, that's going to be all the PAL breeding floors, so there's really only one more floor to go over. But in order to actually go to the top floor, we got to go to the bottom first. Alright, so here we are at the bottom floor again. Like I said, with these little sections right here, these were a bit of a surprise, and now I'm going to tell you about them. So these little open sections right here and over there are actually going to be little elevator shafts. So if we look up here, you can see that it's just a clear shot all the way up, and we have little openings where all the staircases are, so you can go to each floor. But that way you either just climb the walls or use a PAL to help you get up, and that way you have a little elevator right on each side. Now, the 2 main pals that I usually use to get up these elevator shafts are either Dave, my Xenolord, and the other pal that I like to use to get up this elevator shaft, honestly, because it's just really fun, is Crocodro. So for those who don't know, Crocodro's partner ability pretty much makes them a launch pad, and if you upgrade their partner ability on PAL Condenser, they can launch you really high. And just to give you a bit of an example of this, if I throw the Great Defender down right here and use his ability right away, and voila, as you can see, we're at the front of my base. Everyone, welcome to the top floor. So as you can see, we have a little building in the center, just like all the other floors, but we actually have a topped off roof on this one. We also have some PAL changing stations right here so you can change their costumes. But having these PAL costume stations was actually a suggestion by a viewer, so shout out to them. I don't remember your name, but you know who you are. But then we also put some carpets down just to make that nice. We also put this little water thing here with some pillows. Just continuing along the circle, we got a little piano here because why not? I think it looks nice with the little stool. On the other side here, we have some vending machines just to kind of fill the wall up a little bit. And then on this side, we have some hot springs just on one on each side, just for a little bit of decoration. Now, if we actually go inside the building here, this is where it gets cool. We have a nice glass floor with a little garden underneath. I'm personally really proud of this. I figured most of the floors look pretty boring, so I decided, why don't I just put a little garden underneath mine? And honestly, I wish you could see it a little bit better through the glass. Even with this medium texture, it's still pretty hard to see. But I think it looks pretty nice. I think it's a cute little floor. But then going over everything else in this room, we have a little couch with a TV right here, so you can just sit here and watch TV. You got the little lamp and the little bonsai plant. I'll also mention that I like to use this sort of stand as a TV stand since this pretty much fits perfectly on it. But then moving on to the other corners here, we just have an advanced chest just in case once again I need to store anything. And then we also have a character editor station in case we want to do that anytime. I didn't mention it yet, but we did put some little banners on the wall with some plants at the door to kind of add some interior design to the room. And then in this corner, once again, a Japanese style desk. I just really like the look of this. And then I changed up the plants to some cherry blossoms because I thought those were a nice little change of pace from the regular bonsai trees. We also put a little Japanese style chest in here because I thought it looked nice in the room. Not really great for storage space, but it looks nice. And then finally, we just have the bed in the corner with the little nightstand. Nothing too crazy here. But then something I will mention is that you can actually get into this little garden area if you just come down here and go through this door here, and you are in the little garden. I plan on putting some chairs or something in here so I can like sit down, but if you really want to, you can just sit on the ground, relax, enjoy the garden. We got the little water fountains, some nice little statues, the little flower beds you use for planting upgrades, and then finally some little lanterns for that aesthetic lighting. And something I personally like to do to add a little bit of flair to my water fountains, I like to put a lantern right on top just to add that little point. And then finally, obviously, we got some plants bordering the entire room just to give that garden feel. Also, I'll mention this because I'm sure plenty of people are asking about it, what this line is, because you can probably see it through me right now. So to explain what that kind of is, that's going to be the technical border of where your base ends, but that's not the actual border. So what I mean by this is even though that technically all this stuff above this line is outside of my base per se, it actually still is inside of the base area. Like a good example, I technically have deterioration for structures outside of base at 0 at this time, but you can build anything up there and it's not saying that it's built outside your base. Essentially what that line is the physical top of the end of the base, but it's not the actual end of where you can build upwards. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's what that blue line is because I'm sure many people are asking what that is. But moving on from the garden here, we're going to move on to the rest of the outer part. So we have a little bar area right here. I always like to have a little bar area at any base that I build just because they look nice. And I think I did a pretty good job with it. We got all of our nice chairs. Definitely no chairs that are out of place. No, sir. And then we also have some lanterns and plants placed around to really tie it all together. I think it looks pretty nice. Once again, you guys can let me know down in the comments below. But then moving on from this little bar scene here, we're going to move on to the other side, and this is more of our industrial side. To our left, we have our assembly line, so we have our sphere assembly line here and our two other production ones behind it. And then in the corner here, we have a table just set up just in case we have any meetings, you know. And for those who are curious, I put 4 of the ironwood tables together just to make a little bit of a bigger desk, just so you guys know. And then in the corner, we also put some tires. I don't know why there's even tires in the game. There's not even cars. I wish we had them though. And then we also have just a bunch of construction stuff over here just to fill the space a little bit. Got a bunch of pylons, some signs, this big old tube. But overall, it looks nice and neat and ready for any construction needs. But other than this stuff on this side, that's pretty much everything we had to go over on the actual floor here. But there are these little openings. I kind of forgot to put one over there. There will be one eventually. But we do have these openings in case you want to either shoot at any pals or just kind of look at the view. Because just like my other base, it's a really nice view. Not as much on this side, but on the other side, it is a very nice view. So you can even see it as we're coming up here. We have a nice view of the icy mountain. It looks beautiful in my opinion. And then you also get a view of Sakurajima Island and the rest of that. Plus you get a good look at the tower. But then you also get this nice little view of this waterfall, which I think just looks really nice. And then besides just being good vantage points to look at stuff, these are great ways to get into the top floor of the base if you're ever flying in. But now that we've gone over everything in this base, the very last thing I do want to go over are the pals that I actually have working at this base. So here we are back in my pal box, and as you can see, I have all my pals nicely laid out so you guys can kind of see what I have doing what. For starters, we have 3 Lilians and 2 Lulus working at this base just to take care of all farming purposes. And all of them are going to have the same passive skills of serious, work slave, artisan, and remarkable craftsmanship. And then below them we have our watering pals, which is just going to be 2 fully upgraded Yormantides with the same passive skills. Underneath them, we're going to have our transportation pals, so we have 3 Wumpos and 6 Anubis to take care of that. I do want to mention that I did see a couple comments in my last video telling me to replace my Anubis's work speed passive skills with ones that upgrade their movement speed. So I decided to try this out on some of my pals, and it's honestly working pretty well, so I appreciate everyone who left those comments. I will mention that the reason why I had work speed passive skills on my Anubis is because I usually use them for handiwork. But once again, I appreciate everyone letting me know that movement speed is much better for transporting. But then the last pal we have on this page is going to be my Yormantide Ignis, and that's going to be for cooking cakes. And while I could put a few more down, especially since I have those large ovens to cook cakes, I just have one working at my base for now just to not take up too many slots at this base. But then moving on to this other page here, we're going to have all my ranch pals. So at this base, I have 4 fully upgraded Mazzarinas with all the same passive skills. Both Mazzarina and Chickapees really produce milk and eggs really fast with these upgrades. And having 4 fully upgraded versions of both these pals is more than enough milk and eggs to make cakes. But lastly, I have 4 of these bees working at my base just to get some honey. I'm still working on fully upgrading this one, but for the most part, these guys get plenty. Now, even though these are all the pals that I have working at my base, you may have noticed that I have 5 Stroomer Knockdown here. So both these pals are going to have Fine Furs and Noble on them to help with buying and selling items. For those who aren't aware, these passive skills will decrease the price of items sold by merchants. They'll also increase the items sold to merchants as well. But Fine Furs will give a 3% boost and Noble will give a 5% boost. So if you were to have 5 pals with both of these passive skills on them, you can really get a major difference in pricing for the merchants. I know it's not really related to the overall base showcase, but I did want to mention it since I'm sure some people can find that helpful. But now that we've gone over all the pals at my base, the very last thing I want to do is actually show you the outside of the base. So if we go through one of these doors here, hop on Dave, everyone say hello to Dave. As I always say, he is special and perfect. But then we're just gonna fly up here quick and get a good view of the base. I gotta get pretty far away from this since it's pretty big, but as you can see, here is the entire base. Pretty laggy, I apologize for that. But the first 3 layers are essentially just gonna be metal walls, and then the rest are gonna be glass, and we put on some slanted roofs at the top just so it's slightly less cube shaped. But overall, I think it looks pretty nice. I mean, it's nothing super crazy or anything, but I think it looks pretty solid. And then just to kind of end things out here, we're going to quickly show off the base at night. So I will quickly hop over to nighttime and show you guys what that looks like. Alright, so here we have the base at nighttime. Once again, I wish the lights would work way better. I did try finding a mod to make better lighting, but I really couldn't. I was looking on Nexus mods, that's what I normally use. But if anyone has any lighting mods that they want to suggest in the comments below, I'd really appreciate it because I absolutely hate this. I hate just having these little block sections of light. It looks really bad. But to get into the base, let's just quickly enter over here. Let's just have a quick look around with the lights. I don't have them everywhere, just enough to kind of light things up and give us a little bit of light when we're in areas. But for the most part, when you're actually in the areas and the lighting is properly working, it does light up the area you're in. And how I have that generally set up is 1 in the middle and then 1 on each of the walls over there. And then lighting under here in my bedroom is actually pretty good, especially since I have 2 lights here, but the lighting in this room actually is pretty solid. And then the glow from these lanterns is also really nice. I just love these lanterns. I wish they gave off more light and they actually worked as lighting, but overall I really like the aesthetic of them. But then moving on from the actual base part here, we're going to move up to the upstairs. So let's have a look at that with the lights and everything. So once again, if you're actually in the area, it'll light up and everything. But if you're not, it just turns off. Which once again, if anyone has any suggestion for lighting mods, I would really like them because this sucks. But like I said, if you're actually in the area with the lighting, it actually does a pretty good job of lighting up the whole room with only one light. But then moving up to these PAL breeding floors, we're gonna have these lights, and once again, does a pretty good job. I wish these lanterns gave off a bit more light, but overall, I think that they do a pretty good job at lighting up all of this area, at least while you're in the general vicinity of the lights. And then even in here without any lighting, it still has a nice amount of light just from that light right there, which is nice. And then I actually don't have any lighting in these rooms, but just because there's so many lights everywhere else that all this is just lit up totally fine. Plus having a lantern on your belt always helps. But then kind of just skipping these next two floors here because it's essentially the same thing as we talked about, just a couple different rooms. And then finally up here we have some street lights where once again I wish they gave off a bit more light. Like they look nice and everything, but don't give off the greatest amount of light. But that's why I have these other light sources in the corner. I mean, once again, you actually have to be close enough for them to work, but I do have lights all over to light up this area pretty well at night. And then just to kind of show off the interior of here, got nice lighting right there that shows off our nice little glass garden underneath. And once again, just these lights specifically do a great job of lighting pretty much any room you need lit up, so I always recommend using these over any lights. But overall, the lighting, it looks pretty good when it wants to work. Just once again, I just need to find some sort of mods that work and actually make the light radius way bigger, because it is annoying to walk 50 feet away and have the lights just turn off. But I think that's everything I wanted to show you on this base, including all the night lighting and everything. So without further ado, I'm going to let me, that is up in that little set up there, take over from here. So with that last bit of the tour out of the way, that's going to be my official showcase of my new PAL breeding base. Just like all my other bases, I'll probably be doing some tweaks here and there just to make sure everything's right, but overall I'm pretty happy with how it's all set up. But let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if you like this base setup, and let me know how you guys would set up your bases. Also, let me know if you like these sort of videos by leaving a like down below, because it really does help out the channel and lets me know you guys enjoy this content. Finally, once again, if you guys enjoyed any of the music you heard during this video or just want to support the channel in general, you can check out my DMCA free music label and the links down below. But that's all I have to say for now, so thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch all y'all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.